since no one else here probably knows me. And in a typical American Jewish family, which meant we just showed up in temple 2 times a year, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur in the fall, to pay our dues. And that was just like people who drop in and visit church on Christmas and Easter. No different. And then my junior year in high school, I was at a party, and then at 11:30, the friend's mother says, out the door, midnight mass. All my friends start putting down their bottles of beer and marching out the door to go to church. Stephen Katzman, another Jew, happened to be next to me, and we looked at each other, what do we do? And finally he said, well, it's too early to go home. It's only 11:30 at night. Remember those days? 11:30, too early to go home. And so he says, they're no more religious than us, something like that, so we might as well hang out in church with them. And we lived in these 12-story apartment buildings in Rockaway Beach, and right next to our building was Temple of Israel and St. Rosalima Catholic Church. And as far as we knew, pretty much everyone who lived in these apartment buildings either attended Temple of Israel or St. Rose, so we knew everybody there. So we went, and I sensed the joy at the end of the service, and I said, well, I have been drinking beer for the last few hours. And then I thought about it, and I said, I've drunk beer before. This is different. I said, the only other possibility I could think of is it's got to be Jesus. So I thought about it, I said, I got to come back to church sober and find out. And how many of you had that dilemma? I need to go back to church sober and see. So I did, but I decided I needed to wait a whole year because, like I said, everyone in the church lived in our buildings, which meant they knew my parents. And I wasn't about to be strolling in the church, and then Monday morning laundry room, Mrs. Goldberg, why was Ron in church yesterday? That was not a question I wanted to answer, so I waited a whole year when I could make up an excuse again. The party just moved on to church, so I followed the crowd, nothing else I could do. And I waited a year later, I was still interested, excited, went, and as I expected, I felt that same joy, said it's got to be Jesus. So I said, I've got to find a church to sneak out to where no one knows my parents. And so a few miles down the road, another Catholic church, nobody knew my family. Luckily, Catholics also had Saturday night mass, so easier than Sunday morning. I started going, and then a girl in one of my classes came up to me and said, I've seen you in my church. We have a Bible study on Sunday night in my home for teenagers, invited me. Her parents had come to faith in the charismatic renewal, and they started a Bible study for teenagers, and went there. The first night, Peter and Paul, a movie with Anthony Hopkins, was on TV. So they watched the movie instead of the study, and it blew me away. I was surprised 2 things got my attention. One, Jesus said he was a Jewish Messiah, not a Catholic God. And this Catholic woman said, that's right, he's not a Catholic God, he's a Jewish Messiah. And I said, Peter, Paul, and everyone else, they're all Jews. And they come to believe Jesus is Messiah. They stayed Jewish. They're still in the synagogue. They're still celebrating Hanukkah, Passover, whatever. And there's no church, Christmas, Easter, none of that. And she looked at me and she said, well, why would a Jew stop being Jewish to follow a Jewish Messiah? I said, well, I don't know what you believe yet, but that sounds logical. And, so she said, if you like the movie so much, here's a Bible. The movie will come from the book of Acts. So put a bookmark in Acts 1. I snuck the Bible home the next night. And just a year before, I sneaked marijuana in my bedroom. And now I'm sneaking a Bible in, and I'm more scared of my mother finding the Bible than the marijuana. If she found the marijuana, they would have grounded me till I went away to college. But with the Bible, they might have disowned me and had a funeral. The next night, I read the whole book of Acts. How many chapters in the book of Acts?
28.
28. Read all 28 that night. Was so excited. I brought it back, thanked her, and she said, if you like it so much, read the rest. Put the bookmark in Matthew 1 and said, just start reading every day a few chapters. When you get to the end, go back to page 1. And so I didn't know any better. I did what she said, and I just read in order. It's amazing. I've met all these Christians, 20, 30, 40 years Christian, and they still never read every book of the Bible. It's amazing. All you need is a bookmark. And it works. Just like anything else. Amazing. It's really that simple. And so I started reading, and I found out later, Paul said in Romans, what, faith comes by hearing the word of Messiah. All I know is I didn't know that verse then, but reading Matthew, I discovered that to be true. faith was birthed in my heart, and my journey began with Jesus. And so here I am today.